Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the observation deck of the orbital station, Guardian's Watch, staring out at the vast emptiness of space. The massive window before her showed Earth below, a blue jewel against the blackness. Her gray uniform fit perfectly on her tall frame, and her short brown hair was neatly combed as always. She had served in Earth's defense forces for 30 years, and at 55 she had earned her position through hard work and dedication. A soft beep from her communication device broke the silence. Lisa tapped the small silver pin on her collar. "Admiral, we have an incoming transmission from the Galactic Confederation. They're requesting an immediate audience," said the voice of her aide. Lisa straightened her back. The Galactic Confederation rarely made contact these days. The coalition of 32 alien species had maintained a careful distance from humanity for centuries. "I'll take it in the diplomatic chamber," she replied, turning away from the window. The diplomatic chamber was a simple room with a large circular table and chairs. One wall held a giant screen for communications. Lisa entered and nodded to the 2 officers already waiting. She sat in the central chair as the screen flickered to life. The alien that appeared had gray-blue skin that looked almost like stone. Its 4 eyes blinked independently of each other, and the breathing slits on its neck pulsed with a steady rhythm. This was Ambassador Krelthak of the Vordak species, the current head of the Confederation's diplomatic corps. "Admiral Carter," the alien said in a voice translated by the computer, "I bring a message from the High Council of the Galactic Confederation." Lisa nodded politely. "We are honored to receive your communication, Ambassador. It has been nearly 20 years since our last direct exchange." The alien made a gesture that might have been a shrug. "What I must tell you requires no pleasantries. The terms of the Armistice of Sol have been violated. The 1,000-year peace between humanity and the Confederation is hereby dissolved. Prepare yourselves for war." Lisa didn't react immediately. She kept her face calm, though she felt her heart beat faster. The peace that had lasted a millennium was over with a few simple words. "May I ask what violations you speak of?" she asked, her voice steady. "Your kind has developed quantum communication technology. This is forbidden under Article 7 of the Armistice. Your ships have been detected using phase shift engines. This is forbidden under Article 12. Your scientists have been researching dark matter manipulation. This is forbidden under Article 23. Lisa listened to the list grow longer. Each item was indeed prohibited under the ancient treaty that had ended the First Contact War, the war that humans had lost in just 3 days. When the alien finished, Lisa asked, "When does the Confederation consider the state of war to begin?" "It already has, Admiral. This message serves as our formal declaration. Our fleets will arrive at the edge of your solar system in approximately 72 of your hours." The screen went black. The alien had ended the transmission without waiting for a response. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Lisa did something unexpected. She smiled. It was small at first, just the corner of her mouth turning up. Then it grew into a full smile. Commander Alex Ward, a young officer with dark skin and sharp eyes, looked at her with confusion. "Admiral? They just declared war on us." Lisa nodded. "Yes, they did." She tapped her communication device. "Get me Earth Command, and schedule a meeting with the Joint Chiefs in 1 hour." "Should I initiate Protocol Darkstar?" Alex asked, referring to the emergency evacuation plan for Earth's civilian population. Lisa shook her head. "No, not yet." She looked at the blank screen where the alien had been. "I suspect the Joint Chiefs will be more amused than alarmed." As Lisa walked quickly through the station's corridors, crew members saluted her. They didn't know yet that everything had changed. The peace that had defined human existence for 1,000 years was gone. Lisa entered her private office and secured the door. She approached a small black box on her desk and placed her palm on it. The box scanned her hand and opened, revealing a small data card. She inserted it into her computer terminal. The screen lit up with a message. "Awakening Protocol initiated. Authorization Admiral Lisa Carter. Verification code Sleeping Giant." The computer responded, "Verification accepted. Awakening protocol activated. Lisa leaned back in her chair. The awakening protocol was something she had hoped she would never need to activate. It was a plan created centuries ago, passed down from one military leader to the next, always in secret. Within minutes, hidden systems across Earth and throughout the solar system began to power up. Deep beneath the oceans, inside hollow moons, and within the cores of asteroids, machines that had waited patiently for centuries received their wake-up call. Lisa's communication device beeped again. "Admiral, I have General Peter Holt of Earth. Command." The screen on her wall activated, showing an older man with white hair and a stern face. "Admiral Carter, I just received word of the awakening protocol being activated. Is it true? The Confederation has declared war." "Yes, General. They'll be here in 3 days." The general's expression didn't show fear. Instead, he nodded slowly. "I see. Well, it was bound to happen eventually. The question is, are we ready?" Lisa smiled again. "We've been ready for 900 years, General." The news spread quickly after that, not through panic or emergency broadcasts, but through a careful, measured response. Citizens received notifications on their devices. The armistice of Soltaut has been dissolved. Defensive preparations are underway. Remain calm and await further instructions. And remarkably, people did remain calm. There was no panic in the streets, no rush to buy supplies, no mass exodus from major cities. Instead, people went about their business, discussing the news with a strange mix of excitement and determination. By evening, Lisa stood in a large conference room at Earth Command headquarters. The Joint Chiefs, the highest-ranking military, officers from each branch of Earth's defense forces, sat around a table. On screens around the room, leaders from human colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan joined the meeting. The Confederation believes they still hold the same advantage they had 1,000 years ago, Lisa explained. They think we obeyed all their restrictions. They think we're still the same species they defeated so easily. General Holt nodded. "Let's be clear about our response options. Admiral Carter has already activated the awakening protocol. Phase 1 is complete. Our hidden defenses are coming online. We need to decide on Phase 2. Admiral Lisa Carter looked around at the faces of Earth's military leadership. "They expect us to beg for mercy, to try to reinstate the peace. They expect fear." She paused. "I suggest we give them something else entirely." By the end of the meeting, humanity's response was decided, not with fear or desperation, but with a confidence born from centuries of careful planning. As Lisa left the meeting, her aide approached her. "Admiral, people are wondering how to feel about all this. What should I tell them?" Lisa thought for a moment. "Tell them that the 1,000-year training exercise is over. And now finally we get to show the galaxy what humans can really do." Senator Richard Daniels sat in his office on Earth, reviewing historical footage on a large screen. At 67 years old, his once black hair had turned completely white, but his blue eyes remained sharp and alert. The footage showed grainy images from 1,000 years ago, humanity's first contact with the alien Confederation. Richard paused the video on an image of burning cities. The first contact war had been brief and devastating. Earth's primitive ships and weapons were no match for the advanced technology of the aliens. The war had lasted just 3 days before humanity surrendered, agreeing to the terms of the armistice. A Solday knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. His assistant Ryan poked his head into the room. "Senator, the President has called an emergency session. All members of the Defense Committee are required to attend." Richard nodded and turned off the screen. "It's happening, isn't it? The Confederation has finally declared war." Ryan nodded. "News just came in an hour ago. The awakening protocol has been activated." Richard stood up, straightening his formal gray suit. "Then we don't have time to waste." As he walked through the halls of the government building, Richard thought about his grandfather, who had told him stories passed down through generations, stories about the real purpose of the armistice. The Senate chamber was already full when Richard arrived. President Samuel Wright stood at the podium, his face serious but composed. The large circular room fell silent as he began to speak. As you all know by now, the Galactic Confederation has declared the armistice of Sol void. They claim we have violated multiple terms of the agreement and will arrive at the edge of our solar system in less than 70 hours. Murmurs filled the room, but they weren't sounds of fear. Richard noticed several senators actually smiling. I have spoken with the Joint Chiefs and the leaders of our off-world colonies, the President continued. The Awakening Protocol has been activated. For those of you who are newer members, this means our hidden defenses and technologies are now being brought online. A senator stood up. Mr. President, for those of us not fully briefed on the protocol, what exactly have we been hiding all these centuries? The President nodded to Richard. Senator Daniels has been the head of the Protocol Oversight Committee for the past 15 years. He can explain better than I can. Richard walked to the podium. He looked out at the faces watching him and cleared his throat. When our ancestors signed the armistice, they agreed to many restrictions. We could not leave our solar system except to colonize a few nearby uninhabited planets. We could not build warships beyond a certain size. We could not develop certain technologies deemed too dangerous by the Confederation. Richard paused, looking around the room. But the armistice never restricted what we could study. It never restricted what we could theorize. It never restricted what we could simulate. For 1,000 years, while appearing to obey their rules, we pushed the boundaries of science and technology in ways the aliens never imagined possible. He pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared above the center of the chamber. It showed intricate diagrams of technologies and weapons. While they watched our official shipyards build vessels that complied with their size restrictions, we were developing ways to make those ships far more powerful than their size would suggest. While they monitored our official research into acceptable forms of energy, we explored theoretical physics in hidden labs buried deep within moons and asteroids. The hologram changed to show Earth's solar system, with dots of light representing hidden facilities. The Confederation thought they were keeping us contained, Richard continued. In reality, they were giving us time to prepare, time to advance beyond anything they could imagine. They forced us to think differently, to innovate in ways we might never have tried if we'd been allowed to develop normally. Another senator stood up. But why not reveal this sooner? Why wait for them to declare war? Richard smiled. Because we needed time. Each generation added to our knowledge, improved our technologies, and strengthened our position. We needed to be absolutely certain that when the day came, we would not just fight the Confederation, we would win decisively. The hologram changed again, showing simulation results of battle scenarios. The numbers were overwhelmingly in humanity's favor. According to our most recent models, we now have a 94% chance of victory with minimal human casualties, Richard explained. A century ago, that number was only 67%. 2 centuries ago, it was 41%. We've been patient because we had to be. President Wright stepped forward again. Thank you, Senator Daniels. Now let's discuss our immediate response. After the meeting, Richard returned to his office. He sat at his desk and opened a small wooden box. Inside was a very old piece of paper, a letter from his great-great-grandfather, who had been one of the original architects of the Awakening Protocol. The letter read, "To my descendants who might see the day the armistice ends, know that what appears to be humanity's greatest defeat was actually the beginning of our greatest achievement. We turned our prison into a laboratory, our restrictions into challenges to overcome. When the day comes that the aliens return to finish what they started, they will find not the same humans they so easily conquered, but a species transformed by necessity and determination." Richard carefully folded the letter and put it back in the box. He walked to the window of his office, looking out at the gleaming city beyond. People moved about their day normally, without panic or fear. They had been prepared for this moment, for generations. His communication device beeped. It was a message from Earth Command. Phase 2 initiated. Defense grid activating. All systems nominal. Richard smiled as he watched the sky. To the naked eye, nothing had changed. But miles above, hidden satellites were unfolding weapons that had been disguised as weather monitoring equipment. Deep beneath the oceans, Sleeping factories were waking up, ready to produce thousands of advanced fighter craft. On the far side of the moon, a massive cannon built piece by piece over centuries and hidden from alien observation was powering up. They thought the armistice was their victory, Richard said quietly to himself. They never realized it was actually our opportunity. His device beeped again with an update. Alien fleet detected approaching outer system boundary. Estimated arrival, 65 hours. The countdown to humanity's reveal had begun. Dr. Michelle Grant walked through the massive underground complex beneath the Rocky Mountains. At 42, she was the youngest person ever to lead the Defense Science Division. Her quick mind and creative problem-solving had earned her this position 5 years ago. Her long black hair was tied back in a neat ponytail, and her lab coat was spotless despite the constant activity around her. The complex had existed for over 800 years, though it had been rebuilt and expanded many times. To the Confederation's monitoring systems, it appeared to be a simple geological research facility. In reality, it was the heart of humanity's secret defense network. Scientists and military personnel rushed around her, their faces showing excitement rather than fear. For generations they had trained for this moment. Their families had worked here before them and their grandparents before that. The complex was more than a facility. It was the keeper of humanity's true progress. Michelle entered the main command center, a vast room filled with screens and control stations. In the center stood a three-dimensional holographic display of the solar system. Red dots showed the approaching Confederation fleet. Status report, she called out as she approached the central platform. Colonel Eric Porter turned to face her. At 50, his face showed the weathering of years spent in military service. His short gray hair and the scar across his right cheek gave him a tough appearance, but his eyes were kind. All systems operational, he replied with a calm voice. The Confederation fleet is moving faster than expected. They'll reach the edge of our system in 36 hours, not 48 as we initially calculated. Michelle nodded. They're eager to finish what they started 1,000 years ago. What about our preparations? Eric gestured to the hologram. The stealth satellites are in position. The quantum communication network is online, operating on frequencies they can't detect. The shield generators around Earth, Mars, and our major colonies are at full capacity. And the fleet? Michelle asked, her eyes fixed on the display. Eric paused, a rare grin crossing his normally serious face. Ready to show the aliens what happens when you give humans 1,000 years to plan? On the holographic display, tiny blue dots began to appear throughout the solar system. They emerged from hidden bases on moons, asteroids, and even from within the gas giants. What had appeared to be mining operations on distant moons were revealed as shipyards, research outposts transformed into weapons platforms. Simple communication satellites unfolded into advanced defense systems. Beautiful, Michelle whispered. She had spent her entire career working on these projects, but seeing them all activate at once was breathtaking. A young lieutenant approached them. Dr. Grant, the president is asking for an update on Project Prometheus. Michelle exchanged a glance with Eric. Project Prometheus was humanity's most closely guarded secret, a technology so advanced that even most of Earth's military leaders didn't know the details. Tell him it's ready, she replied. Final testing was completed last month. We can deploy as soon as the order is given. The lieutenant nodded and returned to his station. Michelle turned back to the holographic display, watching as more and more blue dots appeared. It's hard to believe this day is finally here, Eric said quietly. My grandfather used to tell me stories about how this would play out someday. He died never knowing if it would happen in his lifetime. Michelle nodded. My family has been involved in the defense programs for 6 generations. My mother helped design the quantum shields. My father worked on the phase shift engines. They raised me on stories of what would happen when the Confederation finally realized what we'd been doing. Eric looked at her. Are you nervous? Michelle considered the question. No, she finally said. Curious, maybe. Excited, definitely, but not nervous. We've run too many simulations, prepared too thoroughly to be nervous now. A loud beep sounded from one of the stations. A technician called out, "Incoming message from the alien fleet." "Put it on the main screen," Eric ordered. The large screen at the front of the room flickered to life. The face of a Vordax appeared. The same species as the ambassador who had delivered the war declaration. But this was no diplomat. The elaborate armor and markings identified it as a high-ranking military commander. "Humans," the alien said, its translated voice filling the command center. "I am Fleet Commander Zixpar of the Galactic Confederation. Your defiance of the armistice terms has forced our hand. Surrender now and we will consider mercy. Resist and we will crush your civilization as we nearly did 1,000 years ago." Michelle stepped forward. As head of the Defense Science Division, it was her responsibility to respond. "Fleet Commander," she said, her voice steady. "This is Dr. Michelle Grant of Earth. We have received your message and have prepared our response." She nodded to a technician who pressed a series of buttons. The command center's system sent a carefully crafted message back to the Confederation fleet. "The diplomatic response has been sent," the technician confirmed. Eric raised an eyebrow. "What exactly did we just tell them?" Michelle smiled. "We accepted their declaration of war and invited them to proceed to designated coordinates for the initial engagement." Eric laughed. "You invited them to attack us?" "At a location of our choosing, yes," Michelle replied. "We also informed them that humanity looks forward to demonstrating its progress." The message that had gone out to the Confederation was carefully worded. "We accept your declaration. Please proceed to designated coordinates for the initial engagement. Humanity looks forward to demonstrating its progress." Attached to the message were the coordinates for a seemingly empty region of space near Jupiter's orbit. What the aliens couldn't know was that this area was surrounded by humanity's most advanced defensive systems, hidden weapons platforms that had been disguised as research stations for centuries. "They'll think it's a trap," Eric said. "They won't go there." Michelle shook her head. "They will. Their pride won't allow them to refuse such a direct challenge. Besides, their scans will show nothing dangerous at those coordinates. Our stealth technology is beyond their detection capabilities." The command center continued its busy activity as preparations accelerated. Michelle walked to a private console and entered a series of codes. A small screen lit up with a secure message. "Prometheus authorization confirmed, awaiting final command." She placed her hand on the scanner beside the screen. "Final authorization, Michelle Grant, Defense Science Division. Activate Prometheus. Protocol on my command." The screen flashed green. "Acknowledged." Michelle looked up at the main display showing the approaching alien fleet. In just over a day, the Confederation would learn that the humans they thought they had contained were not the same species they had so easily defeated 1,000 years ago. "Send word to all our forces," she said to Eric. "It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can really do." High Admiral Zixpar stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Eternal Dominion, the most powerful warship ever built by the Confederation. His gray-blue skin had darkened with age and battle scars, and the breathing slits on his neck pulsed rapidly, with excitement. After serving the Confederation for nearly 200 years, this mission would be his crowning achievement, the final defeat of the troublesome humans. Around him, alien officers from a dozen different species worked at their stations. The bridge was massive, designed to display the power and technology of the Confederation. Glowing control panels covered the walls, and a transparent floor showed the stars beneath the ship. "Status of the fleet," Zixpar demanded, his 4 eyes scanning the tactical displays. "All vessels report ready, High Admiral," replied his second-in-command, a tall insect-like creature named Veltok. 7,342 warships have entered formation. We will reach the edge of the human solar system in 12 hours. Zixpar nodded with satisfaction. The combined might of the Confederation's fleet represented the pinnacle of alien military technology. Some of these ships had destroyed entire civilizations. The humans stood no chance. "Any response to our demand for surrender?" he asked. "Yes, Admiral," Veltok said, sounding confused. "The humans have accepted our declaration of war. They have invited us to proceed to specific coordinates for what they call the initial engagement. Zixpar's upper eyes blinked in surprise. They wished to choose the location of their defeat? Curious. There's more, Veltak continued. They said they look forward to demonstrating their progress. A low rumble of laughter spread across the bridge. The idea that humans could have progressed enough to challenge the Confederation was absurd. Show me these coordinates, Zixpar ordered. A holographic map appeared showing the human solar system. A blinking light indicated a position near the orbit of the large gas planet the humans called Jupiter. Scan that area, Zixpar commanded. They may be planning some primitive ambush. After a few moments, the scanning officer reported, "No signs of any significant defenses or fleet presence at those coordinates, Admiral. Our long-range sensors detect only a small number of research stations and communication satellites." Zixpar considered this information. It's possible they hope to draw us away from their homeworld. Perhaps they have hidden their meager forces near Earth. Shall we ignore their suggestion and proceed directly to Earth instead? Veltak asked. Zixpar thought for a moment, then shook his head. No. We will accept their invitation. If they wish to meet us near Jupiter, we will oblige them. It will make no difference to the outcome. He turned to his communications officer. Send word to the fleet. We will proceed to the coordinates provided by the humans. Maintain battle readiness. 12 hours later, the massive Confederation fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the human solar system. The ships arranged themselves in the traditional Confederation battle formation, a vast sphere with the most powerful vessels, including the Eternal Dominion, protected in the center. We have entered the human system, Veltak reported. No response from their defenses yet. Zixpar nodded. Proceed to the designated coordinates. Maintain full sensor sweeps. I want to know the moment their pitiful fleet appears. The enormous armada moved forward, engines glowing as they accelerated toward Jupiter. Hours passed as they crossed the vast distances of the solar system. Tension on the bridge grew as they approached the meeting point. We are nearing the coordinates, Veltak announced. Still no sign of significant human forces. Zixpar frowned. This makes no sense. Where is their fleet? Have they surrendered already? Just then, a junior officer called out, Admiral, we're detecting a single vessel approaching from the direction of Earth. Just one? Zixpar asked in disbelief. Show me. The main screen activated, displaying a small human ship moving toward them. It was sleek and silvery, but by Confederation standards, it was tiny, perhaps a tenth the size of the Eternal Dominion. This is an insult, Zixpar hissed. One ship against our armada? We're receiving a transmission from the human vessel, the communications officer reported. Put it on screen, Zixpar ordered. The image of a human female appeared. She had dark skin and short black hair, and wore a simple gray uniform with minimal decorations. This is Captain Olivia Mason of the Earth vessel Gentle Reminder, she said, her voice calm and professional. We are here to demonstrate humanity's development under the terms of the armistice. Zixpar stepped forward, his massive frame dominating the view. Captain Mason, you face the combined might of the Confederation fleet. 7,000 warships against your one. Explain this foolishness before I order your destruction. The human captain didn't seem intimidated. The terms of the armistice prohibited us from building warships beyond a certain size, she replied. It said nothing about what we could put inside those ships. Before Zixpar could respond, the sensors on his bridge began sounding alarms. Admiral, the sensor officer called out, panic in his voice. The human vessel, it's changing. On the screen, the small human ship seemed to unfold. Panels opened along its surface, revealing layer upon layer of technology that had been hidden. Inside, the ship began to glow with an energy signature that overwhelmed the Confederation's sensors. What is this? Zixpar demanded. This, Captain Mason replied, her voice still calm, is what happens when you tell humans not to do something for 1,000 years. Suddenly, thousands of smaller craft emerged from within the single ship. Fighters, drones, and weapons platforms that had somehow been stored in a space that should have been too small to contain them. Impossible, Veltak whispered. Their ship is generating more vessels from within itself. The sensor officer's voice rose in pitch. Admiral, we're detecting energy signatures appearing throughout the area. The research stations, they're transforming. All around the Confederation fleet, what had appeared to be harmless human research stations were changing. Hidden weapons emerged, shields activated, and propulsion systems came online. Dozens, then hundreds of previously undetected installations revealed their true nature. The humans have tricked us, Zixpar realized. This entire area is a trap. Captain Mason's face remained on the screen. We have respected the letter of the armistice for 1,000 years, Admiral. You limited the size of our ships, so we learned to make them more efficient. You banned certain weapons, so we invented new ones you never thought to prohibit. You restricted our expansion, so we grew inward instead of outward. The smaller vessels from the Gentle Reminder had now formed a precise formation in front of the human ship. They moved with impossible coordination, as if they were all parts of a single organism. Scan them, Zixpar ordered, struggling to keep his voice steady. What kind of weapons do they have? The sensor officer worked frantically at his console. I can't tell, Admiral. Our sensors can't penetrate their defenses. We've never seen technology like this. For the first time in his long military career, Zixpar felt fear creep into his mind. He had expected a simple mission, to crush a primitive species that had grown too bold. Instead, he found himself facing something unknown and potentially far more dangerous than he had anticipated. All ships, he commanded, trying to keep his voice steady. Raise shields and prepare for combat. The humans have hidden their true capabilities from us, but we are still the Confederation. We will not be intimidated by tricks and deception. Even as he spoke, more human vessels were appearing throughout the solar system, emerging from hiding places where the Confederation's sensors had failed to detect them. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. President Samuel Wright sat in the Oval Office with his cabinet, watching the live feed from the edge of the solar system. At 58, he had a calm face that showed both intelligence and kindness. His short salt and pepper hair was neatly combed, and he wore a simple dark blue suit. After serving as president for 6 years, this was by far the most important day of his career. The large screen on the wall showed the Confederation fleet, over 7,000 vessels strong, facing off against humanity's forces near Jupiter. What had begun as a single human ship had transformed into a complex defense network that surrounded the alien armada. "They've stopped advancing," said General Kate Russo, a tough woman in her 50s with short blonde hair and sharp green eyes. "Their flagship is hailing us again." Samuel nodded. "Put them through." The screen split to show the alien High Admiral's face. Zixpar looked less confident now, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in what humans had learned was a sign of stress in the Vordax species. "Humans," the alien said, "you have concealed your true technological capabilities. This deception violates the spirit of the armistice." Samuel stood up, straightening his jacket. "The armistice that you just declared void? The one that you imposed? On us after a 3-day war 1,000 years ago?" The alien's breathing slits flared. "You were given fair terms. We allowed your species to continue existing." "You constrained us to our solar system," Samuel replied calmly. "You limited the size of our ships. You banned certain weapons and technologies. But we followed every rule to the letter. We just found ways to work around them." Samuel looked at his Secretary of Defense, Doug Bryant, who couldn't suppress a small smile. Doug was in his early 60s with a stocky build and a scar on his left cheek from his days in the military. "Open a channel to all Confederation vessels," Samuel ordered. When the connection was established, he spoke clearly and firmly. "This is Samuel Wright, President of the United Earth Government. The terms of the armistice stated that humanity would not develop certain technologies. We have honored that agreement to the letter. What you're seeing now is what we developed instead." On the screen, the first wave of human defenders moved into position. They weren't traditional warships at all. They were something else entirely. manifestations of 1,000 years of creative thinking and innovation. You constrained us to our solar system, Samuel continued. So we learned to harness the power of our sun. You limited the size of our ships, so we built small and efficient. You banned certain weapons, so we invented new ones. You assumed we would remain stagnant, under your rules. Instead, we used those rules as a framework for growth. The alien commander's expression, even through the differences in physiology, was one of dawning comprehension mixed with horror. We don't want war, Samuel concluded. We never did. But if you insist on it, please understand that the humans you're facing today are not the same species you subjugated 1,000 years ago. There was silence for a moment. Then High Admiral Zixpar spoke, his voice harder now. Your deception changes nothing. The Confederation has ruled the galaxy for millennia. Your clever tricks will not save you. The alien turned away, clearly ordering his fleet to attack. The connection cut off. General Russo looked at the president. They're powering weapons. Their lead vessels are moving to firing positions. Samuel took a deep breath. Activate Prometheus. Doug Bryant pressed a series of buttons on his secure tablet. Prometheus is go. On the main screen, they watched as the alien fleet fired their first volley. Enormous energy beams and projectiles shot toward the human defenses. Then something remarkable happened. A shimmering field appeared around the human forces. The alien weapons hit this field and simply disappeared. Not deflected, not absorbed. They ceased to exist. Phase shift shield working perfectly, Doug reported, checking the incoming data. Their weapons are being redirected into a parallel dimension. Before the aliens could react, the human vessels began their response. But they didn't fire traditional weapons. Instead, they released thousands of tiny devices, each no bigger than a coin. These devices quickly surrounded the alien ships. Nanite swarms deployed, General Russo confirmed. Beginning system infiltration. The tiny machines attached themselves to the hulls of the alien vessels. Within seconds, they began to interface with the ship's systems. Lights flickered across the Confederation fleet as computers crashed, weapons went offline, and engines shut down. My God, Samuel whispered, watching the screens. It's working even better than the simulations predicted. The alien flagship, the Eternal Dominion, was now completely dark, drifting powerless in space. One by one, the other vessels of the Confederation fleet suffered the same fate. No casualties reported on either side, Doug said, looking up from his tablet. The nanites have disabled their ships without harming the crews. Samuel nodded. This had been the plan all along, not to destroy the Confederation, but to demonstrate humanity's power while avoiding unnecessary bloodshed. Open a channel to Admiral Zixpar's ship, he ordered. Emergency power only. After a moment, the alien commander appeared on screen again. The bridge of his ship was dark, with only dim emergency lighting. Fear was evident in his eyes now. What have you done? To our ships, he demanded. We've temporarily disabled them, Samuel explained calmly. Your crews are unharmed. Your life support systems continue to function, but your weapons, engines, and communications are under our control. This is impossible, the alien stammered. Such technology is the result of 1,000 years of focused research, Samuel finished for him. Your armistice forced us to think creatively, to explore paths of development you never considered. The nanites currently controlling your fleet are just one example of what we've achieved while appearing to remain primitive. Samuel leaned forward, his expression serious, but not threatening. Now, High Admiral, I suggest we discuss new terms. Not an armistice this time, but a true peace treaty, one between equals. The alien was silent for a long moment. Then, with what seemed like great effort, he nodded his large head. The Confederation will hear your terms. The transmission ended. In the Oval Office, Samuel Wright looked at his cabinet. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Doug Bryant began to laugh, a deep, relieved sound. Others joined in, the tension of centuries finally breaking. 1,000 years of peace, Samuel said, shaking his head with a smile. Possibly the biggest strategic mistake in galactic history. He walked to the window and looked out at the clear blue sky. Somewhere up there, humanity was rewriting its place in the cosmos. Not through destruction, but through innovation and patience. Send word to our fleet, Samuel said. Prepare to escort the Confederation ships to Earth for peace negotiations, and activate the public announcement system. It's time our people knew the full truth about what we've accomplished. As reports of the victory spread across Earth and its colonies, people emerged from their homes and workplaces. They gathered in streets and squares, not in fear, but in celebration. For the first time in a millennium, humanity was truly free, ready to take its rightful place among the stars.